This was a real case. A Chinese man turned into a dried-up corpse. It had been displayed in a museum in Thailand for more than 60 years. His name was Zee Oui. We might be unfamiliar with this name, but every Thai households know of it. Whenever a child misbehaves, the adults will scare them by saying, "If you don't behave, be careful or Zee Oui will come to eat you." The children are also very scared of this name. They will immediately behave. He was a Guangdong man who lived in the previous century. The reason he became an infamous name, which everyone knows of, was that in the 40s, 50s, he committed an unforgivable crime in Thailand, killing many children and taking their hearts. In 1946, when the war against Japan has just ended, China has a civil war. Zee Oui has a weak body. He can't stop coughing. His family has lost everything. He only has his mother left. His mother gives him a dagger for self-defense. She tells him to go to his uncle's place in Thailand to survive. Before leaving, Zee Oui tells his mother, he will definitely make lots of money. Then he'll take her to Thailand to share the fortune. The hopeful Zee Oui arrives in Thailand. Right after leaving the boat, a customs officer asks him his name. He says his name, but the Thai officer writes down another name. Zee Oui repeats the name over and over, but he doesn't care, and demands him 10 baht as immigration fee. Zee Oui doesn't have the money, so he gets shaved and cruelly thrown into prison. For Chinese people, names hold a special meanings. They represent the owner's identity. They were given by the owner's parents and will forever follow the owners. It's probably like the saying, parents gave us our bodies. We must not cause it any harm nor lose it. Names are the same. For the first time, Zee Oui has to experience the shaming and prejudice in Thailand. He then gets bailed out by his uncle. Walking on the street, he is still enthusiastic and hopeful. He claps and cheers for a performance. He prays to a statue of Buddha, but his uncle only considers him a burden that should be rid of as soon as possible. He takes him to a chicken slaughterhouse, and tells him to work there. The owner asks if he has a permanent residence card. His uncle nods his head. The owner sees it and reads the wrong name out loud. Zee Oui tries to explain, but his uncle glares at him and warns him. He is whatever people here call him with. Zee Oui finally had to agree. This is probably the reason. His identity has changed. His fate is also changed. Here, Zee Oui earnestly works hard, but due to the unfamiliar environment, plus the language barrier, not only is he not welcomed, he also gets bullied by the children. Even when they eat together, the lady owner also bans him from eating any food. Besides white rice, he can only endure it all, as he is dependent on them. Once, he can't hold it in and scold the owner's children, but the lady owner beats him for it. He falls on the cutting board filled with chicken blood. He has had enough. While the owners are distracted, he steals their money then runs away. The acting in this movie is probably Yihong Duan's best work, but due to its sensitive topic, the movie is not well known. Among the 7 children only one was lucky enough to survive. The killer Zee Oui, in the end got executed. The police officers put a lotus and 3 incense sticks in his hand. Such a hard-working and earnest man like him. How did he end up executed? Leaving the chicken slaughterhouse, Zee Oui works as a porter at the port. His weak body and foreigner status got him teased by others. He endures it, but he hasn't lost all hope. All thanks to a little girl. She doesn't look down on him. She doesn't tease him. She wants to play with him. She even gives him a flower. This sudden warmth causes a long-lost smile appears on his face, but Zee Oui at the time can't imagine. The little girl's appearance will cause a big joke in his life. His tuberculosis gets increasingly worse. Luckily, he has saved up a bit of money from work, enough to buy medicine for his illness. But not long after, Zee Oui gets harassed by other workers. His only packet of life-saving medicine falls into the puddle. It disintegrates in water. He can't understand if it's his fault or life's fault. While he's having a painful sleep, the little girl visits him, but she is unintentionally killed by the sleeping Zee Oui. He dreams of the war. He dreams that he is forced to strangle a Japanese soldier by his general. He strangles his enemy, till the enemy loses all consciousness. Waking up, the Japanese soldier has turned into the girl. Only then does he get the situation. Seeing the little girl's body gets colder in his arms, Zee Oui screams painfully. The cruel fate has made him kill the only joy and hope in his life. He leaves the port to works on a field in another place. Zee Oui quickly gets used to the new environment. Every day, he wakes up early and sleeps late. He works hard, though he's still bullied. This time, Zee Oui pays no mind. With his effort, his field finally bears fruits. He once again regains his smile. Zee Oui finds a new hope in life. Even when he meets the kids who teased him earlier, he happily waves his hat back. But life is full of surprises. Once fate decides to destroy someone, that person has no way to fight back. A long-lasting storm hits. There's more and more water in the field. Zee Wei's illness once again acts up. He curls up and coughs, breathes difficultly in his hut, vulnerable to the wind and the rain. He's like the plants in the field. Nobody knows if he can make it through the night. Human is a resilient creature, but when Zee Oui stands in front of the destroyed field, he can't hide the reality anymore and breaks down. That storm has destroyed his last hope. What happens next is a one-way path, none can turn back. Zee Oui coughs up blood. He knows his illness has gotten very serious, but he has no money for medicines. If this continues, he will die in foreign lands. He remembers the pork heart and lung soup his mother gave him when he was young. He decides to save himself. Kidnapping children, killing, taking hearts, making medicinal soups. This probably has become his only way to survive. Having had such a hard life causing him the wrong worldview. A desire to survive controls him. He takes the dagger his mother gave him before he left. That night, Zee Oui goes to a temple. He uses a balloon to lure a little girl. While she's distracted, he covers her mouth and nose. Then takes her to a deserted place. She wriggles as hard as she can, but quickly faints. The next day, when the police discovers her body has been emptied. Zee Oui returns home after getting what he wanted. He prays with the blood-stained hands. He brings the broken bowl to his mouth. The abnormal smell makes he want to throw up, but he has to drink it to save himself. From a sickly man, he has now become a devil. He regularly wanders around the temple like a ghost. He searches his target with his red eyes. He is no longer hesitant. Instead, he's more decisive and cruel. Zee Oui once again gets what he wants. He kidnaps a girl and runs up to the higher temple. The girl's scream attracts a nearby young monk. In panic, Zee Oui drops his dagger. He runs away with the body. The young monk calls for the police. A crowd gathers. Among them, one recognizes this old dagger. It belongs to the Chinese man Zee Oui. Meanwhile, Zee Oui sits on a boulder. He's attracted by the laughs of the children. Their kite fly high in the sky. Wasn't I the same when I was young? He remembers his mother, the songs he sang during childhood. How he flew kites on the field. How he played with his brothers and sisters. Now, he's a desperate man in foreign lands. After this case, Zee Oui starts killing children everywhere, creating a panic in the society for a while. No parents dare to let their kids play outsides. The police also has identified Zee Oui as the perpetrator. They make a sketch of Zee Oui based on the witnesses' testimonies, then send all forces to capture him. Zee Oui is burning the corpse when the police surrounds him. He fights back as hard as he can. The anxiety and fear make him lash out. Suddenly a Chinese journalist shouts Zee Wei's Chinese name. Zee Oui finally stops his crazy behavior. He confusedly stares at her. He even hallucinates. He mistakes the journalist for his mother. He then hands her the dagger in his hand. Zee Oui is captured. In the journalist's memoir, she writes this: "I will never forget the sight of him struggling and screaming that night. I can't tell if he was a killer or a victim." Zee Oui got executed on September 16, 1959. More than 60 years have passed. Zee Wei's dried-up corpse is still on display. Thai people use him to scare children. Crimes by people, people must pay. Crimes by the period, none can be accused. After watching this movie, I must admit, the whole movie was probably carried by the acting of one. However, Yihong Duan, the main actor of the movie, said he almost went mad for getting too into the role. He often had nightmares after this movie.